Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Well, hi there. Good morning, everybody. It is a wonderful Thursday morning here on WMAL, News Talk 105.9. We are making sense of the news. It is 7:07 in the a.m. I am Andrew Langer in for Larry O'Connor. Larry's back on Monday. I'm here today and tomorrow. Joining me today, Bethany Mandel, the Mom Wars Substack, the Mom Wars Podcast.
I am so thrilled to be here.
Thank you.
And we have a great show.
We do.
We're kicking it this morning.
We are. We're having a lot of fun. And by the way, if you missed any of the show, go and check out the podcast available on the WMAL app. I know I am an avid user of the WMAL app. Go and check that out. We got Jim Jordan joining us later on in this hour. We're going to continue our conversation about free speech. We may ask him about Tim Kaine. Apparently, Tim Kaine, Bethany, doesn't believe that our rights come from God. He sees that as a theocratic notion akin to Iran.
Wild.
We'll also ask KT McFarland about this. She's joining us in the 8 a.m. hour. Susan Crabtree from Real Clear Politics on this Bombshell IG report about the Secret Service. But joining us right now is Congressman Mike Haridopolos. He is from the 8th Congressional District down in Florida, member of the House Finance Committee. And Congress is back, Congressman. Busy agenda. We got less than a month to pass a spending bill. What's on your plate these days?
Well, thanks for having me this morning. It's great to be. I am the warm-up act for Jim Jordan, and happy to do so. He's done great work in the House, and of course, he's leading our fight to make sure we get to the bottom of the 4 years prior and look at, really opening up the government, making sure it's more accountable and every dollar we spend in a much smarter way. But it is great to be with this morning and great to be back in Washington after spending a sunny month down in Florida with the folks who were kind enough to send me up here.
Let me ask you this. Being home, what were you hearing from your constituents about what they wanted to see Congress to come back and do between now and the end of September, but also, between now and the end of the year?
Sure, Andrew. Again, thanks for having me. And I think what's really important is, as you know, the mainstream media was not exactly kind to us the last 8 months. They talked about big tax cuts for the rich or cutting people off of Medicaid. Nothing could be further from the truth. When I went back home, I educated people like, hey, by the way, what was in the big bill? It was the biggest tax cut for seniors ever. We cut taxes on Social Security, actually keeping our promises. And what really thrilled people was the fact that we said that we don't have to pass new laws to actually secure the border. We secured the border by simply enforcing the law. And people are very happy back at home. I probably had 45, 50 meetings. A lot of them were Chamber of Commerce meetings and mixed with Republicans, Democrats, Independents. And they want to know what's going on in Washington because they feel like sometimes they don't get the straight stories from the media. And we had great conversations, and they feel like we're really moving in the right direction in this country. And we've got a lot of work to do over the next few weeks to get this budget passed. But we wanted to really go back home and say, this is what's happening. And isn't it refreshing to have a president who's looking to protect people's lives and stop crime, let alone backing up our campaign promises? So I've got to admit, maybe I'm a rare guy, but back home, I did not get one major piece of criticism. And candidly, no one even talked about the Epstein thing once when I was home.
I'm
not
shocked.
Once. It was really interesting. I thought they would. I thought it would be a lot more. It was just not the case.
Go ahead, Bethany. I'm sorry.
No. I'm going to shoot my shot a little bit and say,
Please.
I really want to go to see all of the launches that are happening. So you are...
I'm in with you, by
yeah,
the way,
so if your office could hook us up, you're chair of the Space Subcommittee, and there's a lot of exciting news brewing from your neck of the woods. Can you share with our listeners all of the amazing things that are bringing America back to space?
I love the question, Bethany. Thank you. And by the way, yes, you're both invited, and I will personally get you into Kennedy Space Center because the more people who see this spectacular sight off the space coast of Florida will fall in love with NASA.
I'm in.
And
we're going.
So let me know. I will. If I'm not voting up here, I will be down there because it's great to be home. But here's the thing: isn't it amazing? Did everyone see the Starship launch?
Oh yeah,
down in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unbelievable. And it was number 10 was the magic number. That is the key element to make sure we go back to the moon for the the first time since 1972. It's called Artemis 2. It takes off this spring. Artemis 3, of course, will put us back actually on the moon. But we're going to have astronauts going around the moon this spring, and we're going to beat the Chinese back to the moon. But more importantly, we're going to be space dominant. What that means is everyone thinks about space, almost like this glorified exploration. No, it is vital for our national defense.
Amen.
And as you know, my son's in the United States Air Force, and it's essential that people know where the good guys are and the bad guys are. That means satellites, GPS technology. And the president, as we all know, created the Space Force. He knows that the ultimate high ground is in space. You can't be number one on Earth if you're number two in space. And so we're going to beat the Chinese just like we beat the communist Soviets, and it's really exciting to see this happen. Jobs galore where I live on the Space Coast, and we're excited. I'd love to have you see this, and I really hope we can get you down for a night launch. It is unbelievable when these things go off at night, and I'm just thrilled to represent that area and see the space industry really literally take off again.
I am so in. I have done so many Google Map things to go to the Kennedy Space Center with my kids.
Oh, yeah.
So it's amazing. But also one of the things that Trump announced was that he's moving the Space Command to Alabama, which, like, the proximity to me makes a lot more sense than where they were in Colorado Springs. How much impact does that have on the work of what's going on in your district as well?
Well, we're the folks who literally launch rockets. It all comes together. You have the rocket propulsion done in places like Mississippi and Alabama. You have the astronaut program in Houston. The element, as you mentioned, moves from Colorado over to Alabama to kind of consolidate those efforts. I think there's a lot of work still to be done, moving some things from actually California to Colorado. But the story of the day is we are reinvesting in space. We know that, again, it's improving our telecommunications and just communication lines in general, but it's really vital for our national security. We all learned the hard way just how devious China is and their communist leadership. We cannot allow the Chinese to have the upper hand here, and that's why we're going full force. Our chairman is Dr. Batten from Texas. He's a fantastic leader of our science committee. He has chaired the space committee prior to my work, and he is committed to making sure we win this space race once again and enjoy the benefits of not only having the national security, but all the, just like you and I have the ability to talk today, that all because of satellite technology.
Right. Absolutely there, Congressman. We're speaking with Congressman Mike Haridopolos from the Space Coast, the 8th Congressional District of Florida. And real quick, just want to get your thoughts on the announcement yesterday on the vaccine mandate issue in Florida. What are your thoughts there?
Well, look, I'm not in line with that for this reason. Yeah. We already have exemptions in Florida. If you do not want to take a vaccine, you have the right to say no, right, for religious beliefs. And Rick Scott, I think, said it well, our former governor, now U.S. Senator. He said, look, that's something where, again, it's a parent's decision. You have that flexibility. And so I thought it was a little bit of grandstanding, candidly. And so if you want to opt out in Florida, you have the ability. Now, in other states, that's a different story. New York and others, you have to do it in order to go to school. But in Florida, you have the flexibility. And so I think it was a little bit of gamesmanship as opposed to that sense. And my wife's a medical doctor. There are more than legitimate vaccines that are important. There are certain ones that maybe we can look at more closely. But in general, I felt like, hey, Florida, let's keep the current schedule. If the parent chooses to opt out, they have every right to. That's what makes us the free state of Florida.
And what I appreciate is we're in America, and so the congressman has the right to have his dissenting opinion on this. My wife's a medical doctor as well, Congressman. Thank you so very much for joining us today.
All right. Hey, we'll look forward to see you guys down at Kennedy Space Center. Thanks again.
We're coming. We're absolutely coming. That was Congressman Mike Haridopolos, Congressman from Florida's 8th Congress. Oh, yeah, we're going, Bethany.
Oh, I'm there.
So much more to get to right now. It's 7:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
So, Bethany, listen, we got my old friend Susan Crabtree joining us in the next hour of the show. And I think we can all agree on one thing, and that is that the Secret Service, in order to protect the president and other important political figures, they should be able to shoot. Wouldn't you agree with this?
I mean,
Yes. You're blown away by this.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I think they should be able to do their jobs.
So we got this. They should be able to meet the basic qualifications. We've got the DHS Inspector General has a new report that none, that would be zero, that would be less than one, more than -1, but less than one. But none of the Secret Service snipers met their requirements last year. Ken Silva tweets out, every quarter, Secret Service snipers are supposed to demonstrate that they can hit a target while standing, sitting, kneeling, and prone. But the DHS Office of the Inspector General has revealed in a new report that none of the Secret Service snipers met that requirement last year. I mean, this is insane.
Could this be why, perhaps, I don't know, President Trump was shot?
Right.
And the snipers didn't take him out. The video from that day is so shocking because you can see people yelling at the law enforcement that were there. There's a guy on the roof. There's a guy on the roof. There's a guy on the roof. And they didn't take him out until he got a shot out.
Let's start with this as well. And this is according to Susan Crabtree. We're going to ask her about this. Susan Crabtree from Real Clear Politics. Susan writes, the U.S. Secret Service's counter sniper team is staffed 73% below the necessary level to meet mission requirements. That's from the Inspector General's report. Failure to appropriately staff the counter sniper team can limit the Secret Service's ability to properly protect our nation. And listen, I'm sorry, I'm at least appreciative of the fact that we are now. It's been over a year since President Trump was shot. Oh, and by the way, not that we've talked about it yet this morning. Joy Reid.
I was just pulling that up.
Yeah, Joy Reid is apparently saying that President Trump wasn't shot last year, which is just, cuckoo Charlie, as my buddy Jerry would say. I have once again asked for any details. This is Susan. I'm sorry. This is not. This is this is Susan writing. I have once again asked for any details that the Secret Service can provide on retention efforts. It is amazing to me. They can't find the people. They're understaffed. They're having problems with their ability to hire them. Right. The Office of Representative Eli Crane writes, although the Office of Strategic Planning and Innovation staffing model demonstrates that the counter sniper team needs more counter snipers, the Secret Service's approach does not allow for timely hiring, training, and deployment of a counter sniper to the counter sniper team. I mean, we have apparently learned nothing in the last year, have we?
Well, maybe it is willfully learning nothing, because something that we heard in the wake of this was that there wasn't so much interest in protecting former President Donald Trump. And, for all the outrage that I'm hearing, and it's practically front page news that Kamala Harris lost her Secret Service detail, which, by the way, Mike Pence also lost 6 months after he stopped being vice president. Samesies. I'm not hearing any of the same outrage about the fact that the president himself is not adequately protected. And there is no larger national security risk than the risk to the president, even if they don't like him.
Wow. It is amazing. The report details that the Secret Service has routinely relied on overtime and personnel from other Homeland Security agencies in order to have sufficient staffing, including for the campaign season and the 2025 inauguration. Last year alone, counter snipers worked nearly 60,000 hours of overtime, which, by the way, let me just talk about this, because this is something I mentioned yesterday in an interview that I did. This is simple math here. That when you have a gap between the number of people you have and the number of people you need, for every staffer you are down, whether it's the police or whether it's the Secret Service, that's 2,000 hours of that person's job that has to be done by somebody else, or it doesn't get done. So in the case of police work, if you are in a municipality, for every 50 police officers that your system is down, 50 police officers, a gap between the number you have and the number you need, that's 100,000 hours of time of policing that is not being done or being done by somebody else. That is an insane amount here. So this is, let's just say that they are short by at least 30 people. 30 counter snipers, and that's not including everybody else. Listen, we got so much more to get to. Susan Crabtree joining us in the next hour. It's 7:23 on WMAL. Congressional rock star Jim Jordan joining us next at 7:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Well, good morning. It is 7:36 on WMAL News Talk 105.9. We are making sense of the news. It is Thursday. I'm Andrew Langer, in for Larry O'Connor. He's back on Monday, sitting alongside Bethany Mandel. We're going to be joined in the next hour by KT McFarland to talk about what's going on the foreign front, and then Susan Crabtree is going to help us continue our discussion about this Inspector General's report about deficiencies at the Secret Service. But we just got to get to Congressman Jim Jordan, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, this bombshell hearing yesterday about free speech. Real quick, here is Jamie Raskin, a supposed law professor, saying that there's no free speech crisis in Great Britain. Let's play cut number 20.
There is a free speech crisis in America today, but there's no free speech crisis in Britain.
Congressman Jordan, Chairman Jordan, so there's no free speech crisis in Great Britain? This is news to me and Bethany.
Yeah, just ask the comedian. Good to be with you guys. Just ask the comedian who was arrested and understand what took place. He's an Irish citizen. He posts something online while in the United States, and then is on a flight to the UK. When he lands at Heathrow Airport, they arrest him for an offensive post. He's a comedian. He's making a joke.
Right.
I mean, this is how crazy it has gotten. And in essence, what's happened is, if you remember a few years ago, the Biden administration established the Disinformation Governance Board in the department, as if a bunch of bureaucrats can tell you what you can post and tweet and say and read. And then, because a lot of good folks like you guys and a bunch of us said, this is ridiculous, this is the most Orwellian thing we've ever seen, we got that thing disbanded. Well, now what's happened in Europe is they've basically taken the Disinformation Governance Board and they've codified it. They've made it their law. And so you have a bunch of bureaucrats who are policing what people say online. And if it's misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, if it's, quote, hate speech, then you can be arrested, and they can go after the tech companies with big penalties, big fines, if they don't adhere to what they want them to do.
I have a friend in he's an American citizen. He lives in Israel now, and he was not allowed to enter Australia because he was a Zionist. And tragically, his brother was actually murdered, Ari Fuld, and there's, yeah. Wow. And is there any concern that this could happen in places like the UK, where American citizens, if we're saying the wrong things, and I say this as someone who wants to go back to the UK and also who says the wrong things, is there a chance that, my visa might not be approved, or that I might be met with,
we're not there yet, obviously, but, censorship is, in the end, it's always about the people in power censoring the people who are their critics, censoring their critics. And that's how it always works. And one thing we've learned over the last several years, and I think throughout history, is, today's misinformation is tomorrow's truth. You just go back to COVID. And COVID hasn't changed so much. I mean, everything they told us about COVID, that everything the government told us turned out to be wrong. Right? They said it wasn't from the lab. It wasn't gain-of-function research done at the lab. It wasn't our money used at the lab. They said the vaccinated couldn't get it. The vaccinated couldn't transmit it. They told us masks worked. They told us this was the first virus in history where there was no such thing as natural immunity. They told us 6 feet was, social distancing was based on science. So they were 0 for 8. Right. They were wrong about everything. But if you criticized at the time, they called you, they censored you. Right. And because the government they always want to censor their critics. So, let's hope it doesn't get to that point. I think if you heard any of what Nigel Farage said yesterday, who's a great witness, by the way, and he says he trusts the people. He says he thinks the people of Great Britain are waking up, and they're going to say no. We're going to get back to common sense. We all want to protect kids online, but that's not what this is being used for. This is being used to censor critics of the government, which is always how censorship works.
In fact, Chairman Jordan, let's go ahead and hear Nigel Farage. Let's go play cut 22.
I'm delighted to reacquaint with the charming Mr. Raskin. That was delightful testimony you gave me earlier on with your speech. But hey, that's fine. You can say what you like. I don't care. because that's what free speech is. And in a sense, this has all been going wrong now for a couple of decades.
This is the warning of your hearing yesterday, the erosion of free speech rights. Maybe you can explain Jamie Raskin's seeming disconnect from the reality. Of course, Democrats are always disconnected from reality, but talk about why this hearing came yesterday and what does Jamie Raskin think?
Great question.
Yeah.
Great question. So remember last Congress, we discovered in our investigative work, in our oversight work, that there was an attack on free speech here in America. The Biden administration, they tried to set the Disinformation Governance Board. And this whole investigation sort of culminated, if you remember, in the letter Mark Zuckerberg sent our committee, where he said the Biden administration pressured Meta, pressured Facebook to censor. We did it. We are sorry, and we will not do it in the future. And, in fact, they've now changed their policy at Facebook, at Meta, where they go to the community notes, a similar policy that X has on dealing with speech. So that was sort of the culmination of it all. And we saw what took place in the United States and where the Biden administration wanted to go. Thank goodness President Trump won. Now the same thing is happening in Europe. They're doing it to their citizens. And the impact that they're going to have on Americans, they don't have a First Amendment there. We do. But they got a long tradition of free expression. And one of our witnesses we had last Congress, a journalist from Canada, Rupa Subramanya, I think said it best. She said, the hallmark of Western culture, Western civilization, is free expression. You debate things. And because the alternative to settling disputes, if you don't have debate and open and free expression, the alternative is frightening, and we never want to get there. You want debate to flourish, and that's what's now being checked, unfortunately, in the UK and in the EU.
Well, I'll say it again. I said it yesterday. One of my favorite interviews, in fact, I'm going to go retweet it during the break, was with Bob Levy, who used to be a columnist for the Washington Post, talking about his concerns about the threats to free speech. Chairman Jordan, thank you so very much for joining us today. But thank you more importantly for setting up that hearing yesterday. So vitally important. There is no more important right at this point in time than the right to free speech. Thank you. Thank you so very much.
You bet. Well said. Thanks.
We've got so much more to get to. It's 7:43 on WMAL.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
So I did just retweet out, Bethany, my interview with Bob Levy from the Washington Post from a couple of years ago, former Washington Post columnist and former radio host. So go and check that out, because I do my lunch hour podcast once a week. It's my deep dive public policy podcast. Speaking of which, this is a fascinating story. So apparently 1,000 HHS employees. Here's what I know. Listen, I know lots of folks in government, and I know lots of folks in government who just want to do their jobs and recognize that in this day and age, maybe you should just do your job and not get involved in the politics that seems to surround, right? You're working for the American people. And apparently 1,000 HHS employees have signed a letter demanding the resignation of RFK Jr. as Secretary of Health and Human Services. And here's the thing that gets me. If RFK Jr. turned around and demanded the resignation of these 1,000 employees, there would be a massive hue and cry on the part of the leftist press. How dare he? How dare he go and demand this of them? Yet this is where we are. Anyway, it really is. We are really through the looking glass here.
I have never worked in government. I've only ever worked in the private sector, and I can never imagine a circumstance in which you publicly come out against your boss with your name attached,
right,
and expect to keep your job.
Right.
That to me is just. It seems like adulting 101.
Right.
My favorite response to this was our beautiful executive producer, Heather Hunter, who tweeted, yes, I'd say the letter makes Secretary Kennedy's job easier in cleaning house. And she posted the meme of Oprah saying, you're fired, and you're fired, and you're fired. Because that is just open insubordination. It's a mutiny. And I'm not a fan of what Secretary Kennedy is doing. But if you have a job, you put your head down and you do your job, or you don't. But this is not acceptable.
How about this? There are appropriate ways within the context of the work you do to raise concerns about the people you are working with. That goes ahead. But the other part of this is it is not courage, right? It is not courage to sort of speak out and send a mass letter if you are in no position to be fired, right? If because of the various civil service protections that are out there, it's not courageous to sort of sit out there and snipe at your boss. It's courage if you really are running the risk of being fired. That is a courageous act to do this because you're putting your livelihood on the line here. But again, there are ways to do this internally and to raise your concerns. By the way, you can also raise specific concerns with specific policies, specifically within the context of your job. And you would have a better way of doing this. But again, this is part of this. It's interesting. I don't know if we did the story. I don't think we did quite at this point. We've been talking about, I know I pulled it for my prep, the big money relationship between the federal government labor unions and the Democratic Party and how they're all sort of giving money to one another to mount these campaigns. It would not surprise me if it were the various government employee unions that were behind the 1,000 employees at HHS that were pushing this.
I would not be surprised, though, if the Trump administration finds a way to fire these folks, because it's air traffic controllers. Like, we learned this from Reagan. I would not be surprised, and I would implore him to do that. If you cannot allow a mutiny in one agency, or it will spread. If these people think that they are the guardians of public health, if they think they are so essential, I would think that they would keep their heads down and try to do the best that they could to mitigate the damage they see Secretary Kennedy doing.
100%.
Instead of just putting their names out there and pretending like they are the guardians of public health, they would actually act like it.
The reason why America, right? You and I we tend to be folks who are nominally in favor of vaccines. We tend to be very pro-science. We take a look empirically at the data in front of us, and yet you and I both, in the space of today's show, have both recognized that the COVID-19 pandemic and the government's policy in COVID-19 broke our brains and broke our trust of these people. That's the people who signed this letter. Mm-hmm. The folks at HHS, the folks at CDC, et cetera, their abuse of their jobs, their abuse of their power, and their perversion of science has led to these reforms. And listen, guys, I'm going to say it. I've said it before, and I will say it again. If you are a civil, I will use all kudos out there, all positive speech out there. If you are a dedicated career public servant, you have to recognize that we are now in an era of F around and find out.
Yep.
The patience that the American people have and the patience that the elected officials have is done. It is donezo.
Yep.
The time for half measures is past. And so you are, once again, listen, I get it. You think you're still back there, 3, 4, 5 years ago where you can, not do your job, bungle your job, mislead the American people, and you get to retain your job. Guess what? That's not the way it happens anymore. It's 7:53. We got more to come on O'Connor and Company, WMAL.